So when did we make the last video? October, November, December, January, February. Almost 6 months.
So it's been a while.
So it's been almost 6 months.
Getting there.
Since we have updated you guys.
Oops.
We kept meaning to.
Yeah.
We definitely were like, all right, 28 weeks when I have my gestational diabetes test, we'll do an update. Okay, 32 weeks when blah, 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 blah. Even 24 weeks, we were like, when we pass viability, then we'll make an update.
I think what kept happening is he scared us a lot throughout this pregnancy. I think we, at some point, just needed to dial back, trying to share and just enjoy the process because we were both stressed out.
Try to enjoy it, yeah.
Quite a bit with whether or not he was gonna be okay.
Yeah.
She's perfectly healthy.
It was super hard to believe that he was actually gonna be here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we didn't even prepare anything for the nursery or buy anything until I think it was close to 34 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It was super hard. Like, after we lost baby A, to have to like sell things, like to sell twin things. So the last thing I wanted to do was to believe he was gonna be here and then have to sell those things if something happened. But the good news is, as much as we like planned to make all these updates and didn't, he's here. One of the hardest things about this pregnancy was I got prodromal labor, which, if you don't know what that is basically, they're different than Braxton Hicks. Braxton Hicks contractions are uncomfortable and you might have a couple a day. Prodromal labor are real contractions. They hurt just like real contractions in early labor, I would say. And they can last 5 hours and be 2 minutes apart. They just don't change your cervix, which is super frustrating because you keep thinking you're going into labor. And I remember telling you, like, I'm not leaving this house till I'm screaming, because we had 2 false alarms where we thought I might be in labor and I wasn't. So I was like, until I'm screaming, I'm not leaving this house.
I actually had to force myself to be on my toes a little bit more to not let her go too far, and to be really proactive with asking, like, hey, is this it? Do you think this one's real? If not, that's fine, but if I sense something, I'm gonna call somebody, with or without you. So
yeah, so we had a false alarm at 36 weeks.
Yeah.
Almost on the dot.
And then at 37 weeks at the exact same time, like the exact same day, same time, a week apart.
So then 38 weeks comes.
And again, same day, same time. And we're like, here we go again. Third time's a charm.
You had gotten home and I still wasn't really feeling much, but I'm like, I'm having Braxton Hicks. Like, whatever. We were making dinner and nothing was really
Nothing
different.
out of the ordinary.
No. Just like, oh, yep, it's tight. It's kind of uncomfortable. And I would say I was having them every like 8 to 20 minutes. Like, they weren't regular. Yeah, they were just Braxton Hicks. My first was 38 weeks in one day. The twins came at 36 weeks exactly. And with all this like coronavirus stuff going on, we were hearing talk that like husbands wouldn't be allowed in the labor and delivery, and my doula wouldn't be allowed there and all this stuff. So we didn't really want to wait, as well as the fact that he's an IVF baby.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit older.
Yeah, I would say, I don't know if you remember this, but you definitely had feelings like something just wasn't quite right. Like, you just felt like he needed to get out.
When I would feel him, he felt really small. Like, I could feel his bottom and his spine, and it felt really small. I was
Sometimes
like,
we could get a glimpse of a foot, and it felt like
abnormally small,
really tiny.
I just had this gut feeling like he needed to get out. It was just an instinct, like, I don't think we should go to term. So anyway, prodromal labor, 38 weeks. I'm walking up and down the stairs, kind of doing my typical things to try and to see if, like, are these gonna keep up or are they gonna stall out? About 10 o'clock, I was just worn out because 5 hours of prodromal labor, nothing was progressing. And I'm like, they're not gonna pick up. So I think I took a bath at that point and they pretty much stalled, like nothing. Mm-hmm. So I was sitting on the floor, ugly crying. Just exhausted.
I just walked up there. I was kind of letting her do her thing. Yeah. So I heard, I think I was downstairs. I heard that she took a bath. I finally come upstairs because I can't fall asleep. I was planning on just taking a nap down there. I come upstairs and she's just on the floor.
Like, just not even frustrated because I knew we still had time for him to come out, but more so just frustrated that we keep having these false alarms and not knowing when it's the real thing. Because at 36 weeks, I had bleeding too. So, and you were trying to convince me to go to bed. You were like, just lay down, go to bed, because remember, if they're real, they'll wake you up. So he talks me into getting into bed, and no joke, so that was like 10 o'clock when he came up there and I was on the floor. I get into bed, and by like 10:20, what did you notice was different? Like I'm laying in bed, laid down in bed at like 10 o'clock, and by like 10:20, I started shaking.
Yes.
During the Braxton Hicks, what I thought were like prodromal labor Braxton Hicks.
What did we say there too?
Like, you made a comment like, what does this mean? And I was like, I don't know, it might mean that I'm dilating.
I was like, I was like, are you cold? And you're like, no. I think I might be dilating.
I might be dilating, it's fine. And you're like, wait, what? And so I was really confused, like, okay, do I get out of bed and try and make these happen? Or do I go to sleep? And so we decided I'd get out of bed. 30 minutes, maybe by 11 o'clock, something like that, I started kind of making a different noise through them. Like through the contractions was definitely starting to make some like some of those like labory sounds.
And they got
more. They were finally getting more intense.
You weren't screaming, but you were definitely loud.
Yeah.
Definitely louder. You weren't able to walk. You weren't able to, like, you had to hold on to something and you had to brace yourself while they were coming. I was like, alrighty then.
And it was so
This is not
quick.
the same.
So he kept being like, okay, so do we call? And I'm like, no. Like, I just didn't want another false alarm. I didn't want to disrupt people. I didn't want to disrupt our doula, our babysitter. I just didn't want another false alarm. So between the contractions, I would be like, yeah, this probably isn't real. And then a contraction would come and I'm like, we waited too long. We
gonna have this baby in the car.
I think it was 11:30 that we finally called the doula and the babysitter and said, okay, it's time. But I was still nervous. Like, even though we texted him, I was like, this is probably another false alarm. Like, I'm gonna be so embarrassed. So we waited quite a while.
Yeah.
So they get there, I think around, the babysitter got here around like 12:15 maybe a.m., which means I turned 38 weeks in one day on March 19th. So I was 38 weeks one day, March 19th, which was your dad's birthday, which is really cool. And we head to the hospital. And it was funny because like the first 5 minutes, I didn't feel a contraction in the car. And I was like, oh gosh. And then
that was a sign for us last time, was when we had left. Because they were so bad. By the time we got in the car, nothing. Like just silence. Radio silence. And then we got to the hospital and they kind of shot up a little bit, but...
Yeah, the car's when it kind of took a turn.
Yeah.
That's when I started yelling a little bit more.
Yeah.
And going over bumps while having a contraction, I've never had to do that. Like those type of contractions, oh man. So that really actually, as much as it hurt, it gave us encouragement. Like,
we're kind of happy about
it's the real thing.
You're in pain.
Yeah. So we get to the hospital, I want to say like 12:35, 12:40. In the morning. They checked me at 12:50. I had my doula send the list. It was like 12:52 or something like that, and I was 5 centimeters. Woo. Which was really exciting. Because the week before at 37 weeks, she said I was a fingertip to maybe 1 centimeter, like 7 days before. So I was really nervous. They were like, here 2 or maybe even a 3. 5 was really encouraging. Like for the next hour, we labored in the hospital, and basically I was like leaning on him, gripping for dear life, while my doula like rubbed, like they were tennis balls
inside of a sock,
like up my back, which was so helpful. And so yeah, we did that for almost an hour, and right around 2 o'clock, somewhere between 2:20, I tried a contraction, and they were getting really intense. Like I was giving you the scared look, like I cannot do this. Which, if we haven't said it before, we were aiming at an all-natural birth, hands-off, minimal checks for the cervix, all of that. And so I did a contraction in a squatting position, like holding onto him, like squatting down.
And you couldn't get through it. You stood back up.
Like halfway through, I was like, nope.
She's holding my hands, like I'm about right here, and she's holding my hands down in the squat position. And she immediately stands up and looks at me and says... I need something. I can't do this.
Nope.
I can't do this.
Get me drugs.
You gotta give me something. Please, like begging me, looking straight into my eyeballs with the saddest puppy dog eyes I'd ever seen. I was like,
me.
And I knew she would regret it if I said yes.
Well, little did we know, there wasn't time.
There was no time.
So I think that was actually around 2:20. And sooner.
I seriously sometimes think it was even quicker. Like once you stood up, you looked at me, we exchanged some of that, and
So I said, I need gas and air, because here in England they use like laughing gas. And I was like, I need something. And I knew it was probably too late for an epidural. But I was like, I need something. So they went to get the nurse, and she's like, okay, I'm gonna have to you lay down. And I'm like I did not want to lay down to be checked. That did not sound fun. But I had to lay down to be checked. So I lay on the bed, she checks me, and she goes, oh, she's like, you're complete. Like 10 centimeters. She goes, the only thing holding this baby in is its bag of waters. That must have been like 2:30 a.m.
Yeah.
Because from there...
So she leaves, I think, to start kind of doing the gas.
To go get the gas and air.
And I think, I seriously, I think it was before she even left the room.
Yeah, she probably
I think she was consoling, because by this point I think we had 4 extra people in there. They kind of knew you were getting close, so they're kind of set up stuff. They had a couple things starting to get ready, and
this part's all a little foggy to me.
This is a little foggy for me too, because at the same time I'm trying to get my family on, and our moms on FaceTime. So I'm kind of just like clicking through something, making sure she's okay, click another button, scroll up, I'm trying to get to where I need to go. And while I'm doing this, I open up the phone, like I just get into the phone, I look over, and your water spewed over the wall.
Okay, yes, but so I had 2 contractions. It's hard to even say like 2 contractions, because once you get to 10 centimeters and things start coming out, there's no break. It's just all pain. It's just all excruciating. There is no differentiating between like, oh, here comes the contraction. No. It's just excruciating. And I had grabbed onto the bars of the bed. I didn't even plan on giving birth on my back. It's just kind of how they checked me, and immediately like guttural, primal,
like exorcism,
grunting exorcism type pushing. I wasn't doing it. It was doing it like
arching
off the bed,
like holding on to the bars and like coming off the bed. Her feet were just like, I'm
pointed.
Me and the doula are on either side, just hoping she doesn't like her foot doesn't slip off the edge of the bed, and then she comes down on herself. And we were a little nervous, so we just kind of stood there making sure she didn't literally try to.
But I had like
off the bed.
I had like one session of that where it was like pushing. My body was pushing by itself, and within another minute, a second session of that came, and it was during that second session, which again, this was like you had maybe 90 seconds as you were messing with the phone. And my water broke and went about 6 feet and hit the wall.
It was crazy.
It went into the fan.
The most insane thing I've ever seen. It was like a shotgun, just.
You could hear it.
You could hear it. Just splattered all over the wall.
As soon as that happened, the doctor comes back over. She wasn't there when it broke, I don't think. She was kind of near.
Yeah.
She comes back over and she's like, oh, he's Breech, or the baby's Breech.
Yeah.
I need gloves. And I still don't know if she got time to get gloves.
I don't know either.
Yeah, I don't even know.
In my head, it felt like there's no way, because I hadn't even gotten. Remember, at this point, I'd only gotten into my phone. At this point, I was like, oh, he's coming soon. I really want them to be able to see this. So I click into the app, look over, click like onto their names, and he's halfway out. Yeah.
So, and I think it's because he was Breech. So feet came out, and that's why it went so fast.
On top of that, his arm was like between his legs, doing some weird, funky.
So yeah, his arm was between his legs. He comes out Breech. And at this point, again, remember, like I hadn't pushed like out of my own. It was just instinct. Like my body was pushing. But as soon as she said it was Breech, I knew that I had to kind of like help it along, because I knew that could be dangerous. So I actually pushed with my push that second time, and the rest
just
of him
slid right out.
The rest of him just came out, and he had a nuchal cord around his neck, and they untied that, flipped him up on me, and my first thing I said was, I think I said like, oh my gosh, he's so small.
Yep.
And I could just tell he was tiny.
You said, oh my gosh, he's so small.
Is he okay?
Is he okay?
Yeah.
Is he okay? Oh my gosh, he's so small. Please tell me he's okay.
Yeah.
And
Did you think he looked small?
I at first I didn't really care. I just saw that he was moving, and so I was happy.
Like he's just alive.
I just started to cry.
Yeah.
You know, and then, but it was a little scary right at first. He was moving, and there was a nurse or a doctor there who was saying he's fine, he's doing good, but he wasn't crying. So they kind of had to agitate him a little bit just to make sure that he just to make sure that he would cry a little bit.
He was covered in white vernix.
Yep.
Like the sticky stuff.
Very covered. Very covered in that. But I just looked at him, and he was just the most beautiful thing I had ever seen in my entire life. And
he opened his eyes right away too, wasn't he? Looking?
Yep.
Like he was like, he wasn't crying, he was like, looking. Like, what is happening?
It was so cool. Really cool experience.
And I was just in shock. Like, I don't remember much of this. Like, I get little glimpses of it, but there's so much like, it's just all fast. Yeah.
It was very fast.
So they put him up on my chest, let the cord stop, like pulsing, and then you got to cut it.
Yeah, I got to cut it.
And then we found out he was 5 pounds, 12 ounces. So tiny.
So yes, the answer to your, is he small, is he okay? Yes, he's okay, but yes, he is also small.
And I think my instincts were right. Like, he was breech, he was tiny. I personally don't think he was getting like what he needed in my belly. I don't know why, but he's just, because my other son, who was born at 38 weeks and 1 day, was 7 pounds, 10 ounces. And the twins were 5'6" and 5'12" 2 whole weeks earlier. Mm-hmm. So I'm just glad he came before everything like got crazy, and like with the coronavirus.
We kind of had what we needed just at the right time before everything got really crazy.
Yeah.
You know, I feel bad for anybody who's giving birth now and with everything that's going on. So we got really blessed to have what we had, and I feel really bad for the fathers and parents who won't get to see their children be born.
Yeah.
It's really crazy.